Sumter, a Union fort in Southern Territory, was attacked at 4:30 a.m. on April 12th. The fort is located in Charleston Harbor, South Carolina. The fort is surrounded by water off the coast of South Carolina.
The Fort Sumter battle began with the succession of several southern states. The statesmen of said states began taking over federal offices, including post offices, courthouses, and forts. One of these forts was Fort Sumter.
The newly formed Confederate States of America asked the Union to surrender at Fort Sumter. President Abraham Lincoln, not wanting to surrender, but also not wanting to initiate war, decided to send food to the fort as troops ran low.
The next step was left in the hands of President Jefferson Davis of the Confederacy. He decided the South's best option was to attack the fort until they surrendered. The South began their attack on the fort by bombing it from land and keeping it locked down hard.
The main Union leader of the battle was Major Robert Anderson, who stayed with his troops in the fort until the evacuation. The main Confederate leader, General P.G.T. Beauregard, had been demanding surrender of the fort since he took command. And now a word from our sponsors.
The new musket. It can shoot farther in with more accuracy than your old smoothbore musket. It's got a 3-inch iron rifle firing a 10-pound caliber shot. Wow! It's got a flat trajectory and immense penetrating power. The new musket. It's rifled. It's great.
I'm Abraham Lincoln, and I approve this message.
What a great product. And now we're back.
The northern strategy for the battle was to first move the men that had been at Fort Moultrie to Fort Sumter overnight to not cause commotion. They also didn't want to lose Union support at home by starting the war, so Lincoln sent only food to the fort. No guns nor supplies were sent forth. The southern strategy was to keep Fort Sumter bombarded and under fire, forcing them to surrender. They carried out this plan by bringing in troops to South Carolina and continuing to bomb and fire upon the fort.
Some major events of the battle include the moving of troops from Fort Moultrie to Fort Sumter on December 26th. Also, the demanded surrender of Fort Sumter was refused by General Anderson on January 11th. General Beauregard took command of the army at Charleston on March 3rd.
The battle ended on April 14, 1861, when the fort could take no more damage. Only one was killed, but Union troops were forced to surrender. This meant a Confederate victory in the beginning of the Civil War.
The battle proved significant because it was the first fight between the North and the South, and it began the Civil War. This meant hardships to come for both the North and the South. Both sides began to prepare for war. I'm Ivana Tinkle.
And I'm Seymour Butts.
Signing off with Hush News at 10:45.
Don't sweat it, Hush.
And now to our tech crew for a reenactment of the battle. Hi, Bob Johnson here with the tech crew. Here at the tech crew, we've created a little sculpture to show you a little bit about Fort Sumter. Fort Sumter was a fort right off the coast of South Carolina. It was completely surrounded by water, with only a thin strip of land leading to the shore. This gave a good protection from the land because you couldn't go right up and attack it without boats. This also kept it kind of surrounded because here on the coast, Confederate troops would have been able to attack it, and people at Fort Sumter would have had no way to really escape this. Confederate troops along the coast attacked Fort Sumter day and night and bombed it constantly to keep them locked down and to keep them unable to get reinforcements, supplies, and food. This gave Fort Sumter the only option of surrender, because as these troops shot at it, it slowly deteriorated and pieces fell apart until the fort became smaller and smaller, little by little. This has made it hard because you would have had less protection every day. Now the battle only lasted several days. And as you can see, this is because a fort being bombed constantly can only last so long. And being surrounded by water, they had no real great way of escape. So this continued until Fort Sumter had the only option of evacuating and surrender. And so ended the Battle of Fort Sumter. This is Neil Jackson with the breaking news, signing off.
Bloopers!
Okay.
Yeah! I need that.
It's this, and this, and this. Okay, ready?
Can we get back to the assignment, guys?
Okay, never mind. Do it again. You ready?
This fort is surrounded by water and off the east coast of South Carolina.
The Fort Sumter battle began with the succession of several southern states. The statesmen of said states began taking over federal offices, including post offices, courthouses, and forts. One of the forts was Fort Sumter.
The newly formed Confederate States of America asked the Union to surrender at Fort Sumter. President Abraham Lincoln, not wanting a surrender, but also not wanting to start.
We gotta go home.
Shut up. Is it recording now?
Batman in the blue coat.